All right, Doug. So I'm excited to have you on the show. I know you're very, very active out there in the podcast world, social media, and you're in sales, which I love that as well. So, official welcome. Next up on the show is Douglas Mitchell, the CEO of Argenta Consulting, an award-winning sales organization which earned over $35 million in commissions, selling products via door-to-door, business-to-business, referrals, and social media. So, Doug, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Marc.
So how'd you get involved in building sales teams? That's what you're about now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the start of that journey?
So I got fired from about like the 21st jobs I had.
Well, let's just start with honesty. Let's go there.
Yeah.
A nice, provoking lie.
I had
I
an
love
issue.
Not
I had
a
an
worker
issue with
bee.
I had an issue with authority, and I thought I could do everything better, which it turns out I could to a certain point, and then I reached my cap, right? We all do. But anyways, I worked for another entrepreneur that had several businesses, and one of them was collectible gold sales, like a Boiler Room. Have you guys seen Boiler Room?
Mm-mm.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's basically when
Is
you
that
put
with Ben Affleck?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen
Ben
pieces of
Affleck,
it
Vin
on
Diesel,
TikTok.
Yeah.
I think Casey Affleck's in it too, a few other people. But anyways, it's a room where they basically get on the phones and sell high ticket products, right?
Mm.
And in this case, it was intrinsic value gold, like American Eagles that are certified, and these guys would do 7 to 10 million a year selling those type of coins. And so he was a serial entrepreneur. So one of his salespeople said, "Hey, I came from this other company. They do door-to-door sales for AT&T. It's easy to get a contract, and you can make millions of dollars doing it. I see companies do it all the time." And so he starts this company, dumps $200,000 into it, and that salesperson walks, takes off, and he's losing money hand over fist. And he's like, "Hey, Doug, I'm the marketing manager at the time, right? I'm placing full-page newspaper ads and boxing up coins and running trailers, to the industrial staffing side. He's got all these different businesses. So I'm learning by osmosis, basically. And he's like, "Hey, do you think you can manage this thing? It's just door-to-door sales. Like, you got that, right? You used to do that back in high school." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. Why not?" And so I got the company back to black as the GM. And then he's like, "All right, I'm going to try to sell it." Wasn't able to sell it. And I'm like, "Sell it to me." I was like, I'll pay exactly what you lost in it. I figured out the business. I know that I can make, I think at the time I was making $30,000 a year. I was like, I think I can make like $50,000 a year doing this. So why not? I had that irresponsible risk adversity. I don't know how else to say it,
It's like, you feel like you can probably do it.
Yeah. And then why not? I was 22 years old.
Yeah, when you're that young, go for it.
Yeah.
Do it
Don't
now.
have
You're not
much
going to do it when you're
to lose.
65.
So I went home to my wife and our 3-month-old daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, and I told her, "Hey, I'm gonna start a business that this business owner that's been in business for 20 years couldn't figure out, but I'm gonna figure it out, right?
I promise."
And it's lost $200,000, and I'm gonna pay $200,000 for it, right? And I didn't have $200,000, obviously. I owner financed it from him, and she was like, "Don't do this." She looked at me straight and dead in the face. She's like, "I just finally started getting a paycheck. You've got a steady paycheck. We've got a 3-month-old daughter. Don't do this." So I got up the next day, went in his office. I'm like, "All right, we're doing this."
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Looking back, it was a great decision, right? So the first thing I did is I knocked doors for 90 days. I figured out the business from the ground up. Before, I was just kind of managing it, making sure the guys went out to the field, creating that accountability. Now I went out with them and started figuring out, okay, what's an intro, what's a qualify, what's a presentation, how do we close? I started putting together scripts. I started hiring salespeople and putting systems in place, right? The first thing I had to put in place was the sales system, right? The second thing I had to put in place was the recruiting system. And the third thing I had to put in place was the management system. Once I had all three of those, then I was able to hire a manager full-time.
Why that flow, though? Why in that order? Why does that matter?
Money, teaching others how to make money, and then how to manage the people that make the money.
Okay, gotcha.
And I've literally never said that before. It makes so much sense now that I'm saying it, though.
That's why I ask the questions.
Yeah.
Because I'm really good at it. And I'm very humble. So go ahead.
So once I got management in place and we started figuring out, okay, this is how an office should flow. This is how meetings should flow. Now we're talking business systems, right? This is how we should set up our opportunity structure. This is how we should present the opportunity to the new salespeople coming in. At the end of the day, we were a staffing and training company. We weren't a sales company for AT&T. We were staffing and training. The sales were happening out in the field. By the time they happened, 20 different things happened in the office before that salesperson get out in the field and pitch a customer, right? And so we ended up scaling from when I first took over the company, we had about 7 or 8 sales reps, all the way up to, at one point, 110 sales reps over 13 offices in about 4 different states. And so what we realized was we had a duplicatable system, right? And it just took off from there. And
How do you deal with turnover? It sounded like we were at a breaking point.
You
That's why I
accept it.
wanted to. So it's a huge factor, right?
Yeah.
It's like you put all this effort into training somebody up, and then 2 weeks later they're gone. I mean,
Gary Vee said it best. Nobody's good at hiring. Accept it, hire, and fire fast.
yeah. So hire fast, fire faster,
Yeah.
and promote faster, or something like that, right?
Well, in sales, sure. I mean, obviously, if you're hiring a CPA, you want to hire slow, very slow. Make sure that they're qualified. Make sure that they fit the
Well, that's a good
personality
point.
profile. So when you look at sales in general, you want to hire for quality. You want to hire like a 6-figure salesperson, and everybody wants to do that, right? But sometimes it takes 9, $50K a year salespeople to get to that 6-figure salesperson, right? But if you legit have lead flow coming in, you have the opportunity. It's more of a conversion type system versus a hunting and gathering type system. Then you want to hire quality. You're going to use things like wisehire.com. Is great because they have built-in disc testing. And so what you do is you disc test your top salespeople and then maybe even your sales manager, and then you get a personality profile, and then you check that personality profile of everybody coming in as a candidate, and then you
so you're job posting on wisehire.com.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing? Okay.
yeah, and then they have it's set up to where you can set up the disc test before they can apply. So they have to take the disc test. One, they can follow instructions and take a disc test, right?
Will
We're
they
winning.
actually take the disc test is a
Right.
huge test, I believe.
Exactly. You got to put hoops in place if you want higher quality people.
True.
So they take the disc test, they match the profile. Now they're a premium candidate. Now you're not just like, hey, here's an application or here's an interview. You're reaching out to them. You're having a conversation. Now you're selling them on the position because they're a premium candidate. And so there's that version, which is high quality, right? And then there's, all right, body count equals bank account. I need to get as many salespeople in here as possible. The sales script is very simple. If you can walk and chew gum, you can execute it. And so I'm going to do opportunity meetings now to where I pitch the opportunity to maybe 5 to 10 people. And maybe 2 or 3 are like, okay, I can do this. And
This
then,
is to hire salespeople,
right. And then 3 weeks later, you've got 1 left. And once you figure out that
I've
system,
heard this before.
yeah. Once you figure out that system, then you scale it. You get more offices, you get more people, you get more managers. You know what I mean? You just scale it from there. That's door-to-door sales, though. As you move up in the rank in terms of difficulty of sale, like you go into B2B, now you want the higher quality reps. It just depends on your business.
So
yeah, go ahead.
you started in the door-to-door space. You bought the company. How did you get exposure from door-to-door to B2B to social media? How did that flow go?
So the campaign, what happens is when you have a company like AT&T realize, oh, you're good at this, then they want you to do other products and other campaigns, right? So the next one they wanted us to do was B2B, right? So now we're knocking on businesses' doors instead of residential doors, right? And the next one, they launched a security campaign, right? So they had a digital life. And so now we're sending you leads and you're going in and closing the customers, So kind of grew into other avenues because my client needed those other avenues. I also did sales for Vivint. We opened up our own solar company. We did commercial energy sales. We did residential energy. We did all different kinds of stuff. We wanted to diversify our portfolio so we could hire a lot of different types of people, as well as create different opportunity structures, right? Now, social media came up when I joined a mastermind called Apex 2 years ago. It's been a little over 2 years now, right? Yeah, maybe about 2.5 years ago. And I learned things in there that helped me recruit those higher quality salespeople or those key players, those tens, I guess you could say. And the idea behind it was, 1, be transparent, 2, document everything, and then 3, give value. And if you do that, you'll get an attraction that happens in terms of recruiting, that happens in terms of sales, and that happens in terms of the people that you do life with and friendships, And it creates this, this atmosphere or this circle of influence, that you all kind of feed each other, to where you're not scrolling your social media and it's all junk and politics and crap that's controversial. It's all positive things, lifting each other up, business ideas and techniques and websites that are working really well, or AI, whatever the latest trend is that's helping business owners. That's what your feed is full of, And so that's kind of how I got into the social media piece. I learned a concept called building your machine, which there's a few different ideas behind it. But the first one is, like I said, document everything, right? Post at least once a day. We post, per medium, probably 3 to 4 times a day. That's not including stories, right? One of those posts are mine, or 2, and then the rest are podcast clips, consulting clips. It's a lot of video now, exactly what you and your team does. And, that's a big part of it. A lot of customers hear about you, and then they don't make a decision on your product, and then they never hear about you again. But if you're constantly posting on social media and you've connected with them there, then they're going to see your product every day. You'll be top of mind. And then when they do finally decide they have that big problem that comes up because they don't have your service, guess who they're going to call? So that's the general concept of it. But you can be a lot more strategic with it too. And so if I decide, hey, I want to go after real estate investors, and I'm a CPA and I know that I can help them with their real estate investments and make sure they don't get in trouble with their passive activity, then I can network first, right? I can go to the things that you guys go to locally here, or national events. I can network first, and anytime I get a real estate investor, I'll connect with them on social media. And then I'll put them into what I call my top 25. And those top 25 are people that I make a intentional effort on a weekly, bi-weekly, 3 or 4 times a week. If you have one of Marc's VAs, you can do it every day.
Exactly what I do.
I target them, and I like all their posts. I comment on their posts, and I engage with their content. And guess what happens when you do that?
They're connected to you. You're connected to them. Facebook sees you as a couple. We'll just call it a couple.
Yeah, and then it gives you right back to them.
Yep.
Now, do you think they're going to do business with the CPA that specializes in real estate investing that they saw at a conference and never heard from again, or the one that they exchange social media handles and they see every day on their social media, and is giving them tips and tricks, giving them value on how they can maximize their depreciation?
Yeah, value, personality. This is who I am. This is I call it relevance, right? Because you're staying relevant in front of your ideal client. This is not rocket science, right?
Yeah.
And when you can, that's why outsourcing is such a huge leverage in that, because I can stay in front of them almost constantly. I'm working on a LinkedIn project that I think is going to be amazing. But
and
I'm doing
LinkedIn is one of the most underutilized when it comes to this. So I think it's going to be fantastic. Whatever you're doing with that, if it's around this concept, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the thing too with social media is there's a lot of people out there. They're the silent scrollers, right? They don't really do a lot on social media, and those people don't really register how much influence social media actually has on them on like a cognizant, recognized level. They do get influenced by it, but they don't think they do because they're not big on social media. But just being that person that you see, I feel like I know some people just because I see them all the time on TikTok or Facebook, and I don't know them except on social media, and they share enough of themselves that I feel like I've got a personal connection with them. And then you meet them in person, you're like, oh, this person doesn't know me at all. But it's a huge sales tool. So you have given a lot of value just based on your story, showing all the different ways that you can generate business, systematize sales, new tips and tricks. If there's one thing that someone listening who is like, oh gosh, I need to up my sales game, I need to bring in more revenue, could concentrate on in their business to do, what would you advise them to start with?
Reps. You need more reps. Too many people are looking for the NLPQ fix for their sales process, or to even hire the consultant, and bring them in and fix their process. But at the end of the day, conviction comes from experience, and you need more reps.
So quantity
and by reps, you
over
mean
quality.
sales reps that are out there actually
Well,
talking to people, trying to sell your service.
And look, everybody's going to pitch you advertising, just like they did our man Roman. It's
Ram.
Ram. Everybody's going to pitch you that, but at the end of the day, you can advertise all you want. But once that client comes in, if they have any doubt about wanting to use their service, you're gonna fumble that ball. You know what I'm saying? And so don't be afraid of cold leads. Don't be afraid of networking. Don't be afraid of building relationships where people come in from a referral source, which is a lot warmer than a paid ad.
Oh, big
right?
time.
Because if you haven't closed at least 100 customer, and depending on your ticket price, right? But if you haven't at least closed 100 customers, you need to do that before you go and spend money on ads. Because you need the reps, you need the experience, you need to have 100 conversations and know exactly what the pain points of your client are, how your service provides the solution, and then why they're going to buy today. Not tomorrow, not the next day, not next week, because that gets exhausting to keep up with, right? So why they're going to buy today. Once you go through 100 of them, and let's just say you close 10 to 15, you're going to be lethal when those ads come in because they're actually going to be interested in your product at that point. You know what I mean? And you'll have such a better advantage.
So I know by the time this is released, you've got an event coming up on Friday that I'm excited about being there, and just I think being in your circle a little bit is I want to pay attention to that because you're good at it. You've got a good vibe about it. You're not hype. You're just this is just what it is.
Yeah.
So Doug, I appreciate you coming in. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that, and what's your social media that they should be following?
Yeah, txbizdad.com. So that's txbizdad.com, and that has all my social media handles on it and everything. But if you want to go straight to social media, everything is at txbizdad.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Great conversation. All right, as we wrap up the show, quick reminder, check out our latest podcast on all of our usual podcast platforms, or you can go to our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for us. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.